The bottom right hand corner of the screen is really giving that OCD triggering. We're going to have a look at this bug. Button switching on the opening crystals. I think we're going to look into that. Dual class 6-star crystals are out, but the cost is too high on the shards. We're going to look into some opinions on that matter. And Battlegrounds Situation continues its descent into madness with bugs to the mastery loadout. It's being pay to win. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive, and as well, kabam respond further to this. Let's get into the news. Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Also make sure that you come back to the channel later on today, because we should be doing some deep dives into the Act 8.1 rewards and release notes, which should be dropping later on today as per a kabam bit of information that we learnt about yesterday. But yeah, lots of stuff to go into. Also make sure to hit the like button, subscribe with post notifications on all. And I also don't want to have every single news show be devoted to talk about Battlegrounds, because to be honest, it's better to focus forward on other things coming into the game, because this is having so much of a negative impact, and I want to feel positive about MCOC, and like Act 8.1 is, as I said, like one of the things that I'm most looking forward to that's coming into the game. So back last week, players mentioned that they were not really happy with what was being switched with the placement for the back to crystals and upgrade champions, and I must admit the swap that's been done, I have most of the time been clicking correctly. It will be something you'll kind of have to retrain your brain on, but I definitely see the frustration in kind of going like, look, if you like want to go back to crystals and upgrade champions, then sometimes you go and send yourself to kind of like upgrade champions. I mean, like here's kind of a good example. I'm pretty certain I used to press like left as opposed to right on what you see on screen, so I would have gone like left for back to crystals and right towards upgrade champions. I don't know, seeing this I'm kind of thinking, then the problem is you then change your mindset and going like, am I going mad now? Is this a normal thing? But definitely a lot of players have kind of said that this is something they're not particularly a big fan of, and I do bear in mind, like if kabam Zero and the kabam team like change it back next month, it's then retraining your brain back to the way it was. Yeah, it could lead to like a lot of people just like, Our next issue sends us in game for something that is, well, really triggering OCD. So if you click in the bottom right corner, you're like, okay, so I've got two things to go in the solo event. I'm swiping down, no, I don't. This is probably something to do with the Battlegrounds solo event. And I would say that because Battlegrounds has got a few things not going correct with it, there's definitely something with that, because it wouldn't be for any of the others. Well, it could be something else, but it looks more likely because it's something that was new, that was added in. That is probably the problem that's kind of like happened with it. It's just very annoying, especially like a lot of players, like, you know, it's an OCD thing, really. I mean, a lot of people would kind of like look at my desktop and how I kind of arrange my structure of kind of how I work and go, oh my god, Richard, what are you doing with your life? It's organized chaos, I promise. And the same thing with like in game at the moment. I have like nearly 3,400 crystals which I haven't opened, which are on my MCOC job list to do. It's just that other things are always priority of that. You know, ranking up champions, getting content done, making videos, working for other companies, and life, you know, just life like any other people. But definitely it's kind of like triggering people's OCD, which you can see on screen right now. And there's no answer from kabam whether or not they're going to deal with it. But I don't think they are. But yeah, if you're kind of wondering like why it's there, it is definitely a bug right now. I just, kabam haven't responded to this as to like when they're going to deal with it. Maybe it's a case the UI team's going to like deal with it. Who knows? Let's now move on and talk about the dual class crystal. The 6-star one has gone into game, which you can see on screen right now. For me personally, I don't like this. I like it and I don't. Dual class crystals are amazing. There's two crystals that are really good for acquisition with MCOC. I mean, you arguably could say that the 6-star Nexus crystal, or Nexus crystals in general, are good additions because it allows you to have that choice of 3 champions for that. So I guess that's kind of like in that own kind of like benchmark place. However, dual class crystals, what they do and the point to get to is it shortens the pool of champions to 2 classes of various different types of champions to get. So it improves acquisition. No crystal in this game at the moment improves acquisition except for the year specific multi-champion choice, I think, which is 10 plus champion choice crystals, and they are very expensive to get within game and normally are reserved for extensive unit bundles and things at Cyber Weekend, or it's a case that those crystals are, you know, you have to spend a lot of money in order to get them. But that's not the point. The point to get to is how much you have to spend for this particular crystal, which is 12,500 6-star shards, which doesn't really come in line with what the other crystals do. The same way that you look at what a like shard crystal for a 4-star, well, that's 2,000. The dual class for the 4-star is 2,000. The 5-star one is the basic, is a 10,000. The dual class is 10,000. Again, that makes perfect sense. Now I'm just going to look at a few responses from Kabam Mike on this, saying, I know what you're trying to say, but from my perspective, what we're seeing is dual class 6-star crystals are not pro player. There is not a rule here saying that you now have to stop buying the 10k crystals and only buy the class crystals. They might be a bit different than other classes as they were introduced, but those champs weren't at the top of the food chain and we're not ready to make them available for exact same price as 6 stars yet. That seems like absolutely mindless waffle right there. But again, furthering on that point, he says, I would ask that you ask yourself that question, what makes your class more valuable than basic and why shouldn't it be more? I get the precedent set by the 5-star and 4-star crystals, but it was exactly that precedent that kept us from launching these earlier. We know players wanted them. We weren't ready to make more specific 6 stars available for the same cost, but also knew that when we added them for 5 stars, we set that precedent. It was either break the precedent or keep waiting. For complete transparency, we learned pretty quickly after the release of 5-star dual that we shouldn't have made them the same price. Why? But didn't want to change them after the fact. We did the same for 4 stars. But are less concerned with those. We decided to best case was to leave them, as in didn't want to repeat them again. Okay, so I want to get to like a point on this one, and Kabam have and always seem to shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to the situation of acquisition. Acquisition is the point that we need to lead on here. This is why the wish crystal is not in game. Players' acquisition of champions is quintessentially the most important thing. I'm going to give you another kind of example. A friend of mine, if you saw a crystal opening on the channel, spent 420,000 6-star shards. It was either 420 or 450, right? And got trash, okay? We all spin our crystals, we all do RNG, but at the same time, if you are getting a champion for the first time, second time, third time, ever, you want to make sure those 6-star shards are invested into getting something that's going to elevate your roster. And the biggest problem is, if Kabam aren't buffing champions as fast as they should do, there's no wish crystal in game, then fairly you need to put something in place in order to get something that's going to elevate your roster in the meantime. Now I do want to deep dive this situation a lot more, which I will do on a video on Sunday. The reason being we have to kind of finish off now is that I'd literally, the MCN will be devoted to this particular topic because there's things that people are getting, but also people are missing, especially from a point of spending versus non-spending and how spending actually elevates more the acquisition of 6-star shards. And especially if you are a spender, and like there's some content creators, I've seen like some videos that they are spending like a good amount of money, not extensive amount, but they're still elevating their roster forward to the point of max signatures, and their kind of coverage of this, the way they look at this, is going to be very different to someone who's non-spending. Something I've definitely learned a lot from since I've been non-spending in the game for the last 9 months. There's also like a great point about the pool, which is the reason I've got these champions up right now, as to how that is something that in some cases the pool of the champions for the dual class will be shorter, which improves acquisition. But again, that goes round circle to the point of, look, people are trying to invest in getting better rosters and better champions. And if they don't get the better champions, it sucks. And it sucks more because we don't have the wish crystal. We don't have an improvement way of acquiring certain and specific champions. But now we need to move on to Battlegrounds. I will try and keep it as short and sweet on the coverage as possible, especially as a community. We need to move on with a bit of positivity from this. So the first thing that seems to be a bug is switching mastery loadout. Seen a few people kind of talk about this, and in particular this player says, I switched a non-suicide build and applied it to my Battlegrounds. After that I switched back to the suicide build for AW attack and tried to enter into a few Battleground matches. It looks like my champs were all running suicides and non-suicide mastery loadout got overridden automatically, even though I made sure not to modify the champion deck after I switched suicides back on. Has anyone else experienced this? Am I doing something wrong? Seems like mastery loadouts and multiple decks are pointless if mastery loadouts aren't being applied properly. Player says, quite simply, I built a mastery loadout for my Battlegrounds deck and did not have suicides. Saved it, even exited the game and came back in. It takes 15 offensive mastery points to unlock Suicide Tree, and my loadout only has 18 in offense. There's no way this build has suicides. My friend confirmed that my defenders all had suicides, and I can confirm that as an attacker I had suicides. So very weird things are going on right now with this. There is a response from Kabam Jax a couple of days ago saying, the gamers team is aware of this, an issue is focused on finding a solution, hoping we have more information soon. So definitely buggy with this. Now, bugs aside, the situation with Battlegrounds it's just weird. It's really weird, isn't it? As I said, when I kind of like first looked at this, and like I took and record a quick video, kind of like doing the observation, and I had to literally be out the door as soon as I like recorded stuff. And then in the CCP notes, you didn't get to see what the rewards were and any extra bits to it, which was disappointing because I was like, okay, this sounds more complex than it is. And it was made more complex with the fact of like you had to kind of like spend for it. I mean, and as well, the uptake, that's been the other thing as well. Since I kind of like, well, I wanted to see yesterday, how many people from our Alliance, and the 30 people playing, in obviously with the Alliance, how many are actually playing Battlegrounds? 4 people. What? I mean, look, yeah, it's not got that kind of like great kind of release that we were kind of hoping for, but 4, that isn't good. And as Vic gives with his assessment here, says, it seems the recent update to Battlegrounds ignores the players who don't want to spend on this game. They want players to purchase the Elder Mark as there's nothing much in the rewards. There were objectives that give you enough chips, but now there's only 1 in 48 hours, and that too will give 650 chips only. What a joke. Players need to win 15 battles to gain enough Elder Marks to enter 1 battleground for the solo and alliance objectives. Total waste of time for Battlegrounds. So yeah, I think that's I guess that you know sums up. It does just genuinely kind of like, well, surprise me, the difference between what is in the beta versus what is now. That kind of big kind of divide of time between, well, why didn't they kind of bother to kind of go, oh, by the way, community, what's your thoughts on this? This is the plan that we're trying to do. And then it's like, well, then they could have just gone, okay, well, the player base don't like that. How about this? And then before the release, then everybody's kind of on the same page, likes it, and we got thumbs up. Instead, we got this. Why have we got this? Why have we got this situation where people are kind of like, and I get, this is the problem with when it comes to Kabam, is communication. Kabam may say, oh, you know, we've got the best interest with the players at heart. Well, look, now you've got to damage limitation because of this, and becomes a PR nightmare because the game mode that you kind of like pushed, which is meant to be kind of well received by the player base, is now not well received by the player base. I don't get it. I really don't get that kind of business or company dealing with it. Like, you just don't do it. You kind of put the feelers out. In any case, like, to get to the point, you know, some good like opinions and thoughts and kind of ideas to fix stuff, and especially, you know, Elder Mark system does indeed seem like it is the problem with the mode. Even for me, like, I didn't see the need to kind of put in like the victory track and the gladiators circuit and just kind of create it in the same way you do Alliance War Seasons. Keep it simple, and it works. It worked how you were going to put it in. It now doesn't work because you're putting it in a way that, again, like, we're not going to go down this rabbit hole. I'm not going to repeat myself over and over again. But in any case, I'm not going to get on, like, go into great detail about, like, the pay-to-win kind of elements of it, because it is what it is. We need to be focusing forward, and we need Kabam to deal with this. That's basically it. And it comes to this endpoint here. This was put out yesterday or early UK time this morning for me, saying, thank you for your patience with the implementation of Battlegrounds. We have been keeping many watchful eyes on the reception of the newest game mode. Conversations have been continuing behind the scenes about what changes need to be made. Currently, we're running ideas by a select group of players. To be honest, just listen to your player. It doesn't have to be select group. It just has to be a case of like, look, if most players, regardless of wherever they are saying removal of Elder Mark system, right? Remove the Elder Mark system. That's it. It doesn't need to be anything else. We don't have any details at that moment. Early next week for the next stuff. That's basically it. And I'm hoping that next news on Friday is not going to concentrate on anything Battlegrounds related, and we can move on with something more interesting. In any case, we'll see what happens with that story next. And the final story is arena predictions, of course it is, and that is for Titania and for Elsa Bloodstone. So my predictions for Titania is going to be 250 mil. Sad to say, but I think that that's going to be where she's going to fall. She might even go higher, especially when you've seen other arenas that how certain champions have got. Man, it's hard, it's really hard to kind of pinpoint an arena prediction nowadays. But the 5 stars, they're fine to predict, and as well as the basic. So the 55 mil going with the 5-star, again, that comes in line with Gallon and recent arenas where that's been kind of like that 52, 53 mil, so 55 mil is going to be a safe one. Elsa Bloodstone 6-star, 50 mil. Kind of think that it could go less than that, maybe the 40 to 50 mark, but I'm definitely thinking 50 mil should be safe. And the 5-star Elsa Bloodstone, 12 mil for that one, as it normally goes for that when it comes to the basic. Thanks as well to everybody that supports the channel as a YouTube member and as a Patreon. You're on screen right now. Thank you very much for the love and support. Also, those that support on twitch.tv/RichTheMan live. Thanks to everybody that came by to the stream last night. Tonight, we'll be doing some more MCOC and Cavalier difficulty. Maybe doing some Fall Guys at the end of it. We'll have to see, especially as I'm gearing up for the new season of Fall Guys. So, there we go. And also check out some other content which is located on screen right now, and look out for a video later on about Act 8.1 release notes, which are coming out later on today at 10 AM PST, we hope.